And it is that time. Endeavour calls, shout out Endeavour. Endeavour calls are done. I'm about to hit the gym and I'm not massively feeling up to it, but I do have a couple of little secret weapons, which I shall show you now. Surely this is what everyone has in their supplement arsenal, right? So what I've got, obviously, I have my nicotine gum, but in addition, I've got a couple of drops of organic cordyceps and only 2 drops of organic lion's mane. So you guys all have nicotine, lion's mane, and cordyceps, right? No? Well, maybe you should. Nobody said that good quality nutrition was going to taste good, all right? Now, strange organic mushrooms are down the hatch, so it's quite appropriate actually today that that I'm not feeling massively up to it, because I actually told a buddy of mine, James Adkin, shout out James Adkin, you made the vlog, bro, that I would do a video on motivation. And I think from what we've spoken about that he basically wanted to kind of explore my mind and a few kind of tips and tricks on how to stay motivated in super difficult sessions. I've been having that idea percolate in my mind a little bit, and I'm going to expand a little bit more on that particular topic in the midst of showing you one of the sessions on week 2 of my Omnia training at the moment. I said on my testing week that I've messed up my calf. That is starting to feel better now, but it's Friday evening. I'm going to leave it until I fly to Tenerife tomorrow. I'm going to leave it until next week, get some heat in it, and then start running next week. So I've had the first 2 weeks of my Omnia training program, unfortunately, on the bike. But again, I'm kind of looking at it as an opportunity to focus on that. So I'll be doing that session. I'll show you what that looks like once we get down to Route 1, formerly known as OPEX Gatwick. I wonder how long I'm going to be saying Route 1, formerly known as OPEX Gatwick. That's it, it's done, Route 1. Once we get down there, I'll show you that session whilst concurrently explaining my view on motivation, and with my background as both a Royal Marine and a Team GB athlete and a 2-time, hopefully soon to be 3-time world record holder. Hopefully I've got some value to add on that topic. But first, let's get down to the gym. And we're here back at Route 1. Quick warm up to be done. So I mentioned this in a video, or a couple of videos a while back actually, and effectively what I'm going to do for my warm up is just like a little circuit, like 3 or 4 rounds or something, and try and slowly increase the pace as the rounds go on and I start to get a little bit warmer. And that for me just kind of takes away the tediousness, I don't know, let me know in the comments, of doing kind of a static warm up. So I don't even know what I'm going to flip and do yet. I'll put it up on the screen in a second. But I'll have some bike erging there because I kind of want to warm my legs up. I'll do a little bit of core work, maybe some hangs. I'll figure it out. You'll see in a second. What is going on, guys? So that is the warming section of the warm-up done. I will crack on with some mobility in a second, but today, again, just a quick kind of preface to what you're going to be seeing for the rest of the video. James and a couple of other people have asked me to speak on motivation, and it's a funny one for me actually, and I kind of really wanted to allow that idea to kind of percolate and ruminate a little bit so that I can decide where I sit with that. And I have kind of decided that I think it's something that we can use as a tool, but in my opinion, in the world of personal development, entrepreneurship, fitness, and anything to do with health and training and development or growth or evolution or moving down the path in a particular direction of anything, I think it is the biggest fucking con in the world of personal development, including that of fitness and health. And by that, I mean, I've spoke to clients myself where somehow, I don't know whether, and I don't want to kind of like scathe the general population too much. If you're watching this video right now, the overwhelming likelihood is you are not part of the general population. If you are drawn to myself and this channel and this kind of content, the likelihood is you are investing time into watching YouTube videos with content that might allow you to improve your own understanding and self-educate. So you are not in this group, probably, maybe. But I've seen an incredible amount of people that for some reason we've developed this narrative, basically something being difficult for overwhelmingly the majority of people, something being difficult or uncomfortable has somehow, somewhere along the road, become a good enough reason to not do it, which is insane. Can you imagine if as a species, historically, we just had that attitude? It's just, we wouldn't flip and be anywhere right now. So what I want to do today is still talk about a couple of hacks that for me do work well to regularly keep my motivation topped up, because I will train either way, but I would rather train in a paradigm and a mindset that means I am motivated and I enjoy it. If I'm doing something I'm motivated to do, at the very least, there's going to be less friction, it's going to feel less arduous. So it is worth chasing motivation. It is worth trying to introspect and be like, right, what has worked well for me? What has worked well for other people? I'll kind of look through those menus and those options and sit, right, that could work actually. I really, really like music and that does get me pumped. So maybe I need to choose a new playlist, or it really, really helps when I spend time with that person because I always feel motivated when I'm around them. Or when I stop watching funny videos and start watching training videos when I'm having my lunch, I always notice that my session that I do just after lunch is loads better. So by all means, cherry pick these things, and getting motivated and staying motivated, it is absolutely worth our time, effort, energy, and money. But at the same time, you need to manage your expectations as to how things are going to feel when motivation is just a fucking big fat zero, because that is going to happen. And you need to be aware of the symptoms of being very unmotivated, and be aware that there are going to be all these tiny little kind of like self-justifications. You'll start to tell yourself that actually you do have a little bit of a tweak in your leg and you shouldn't do it for this reason, or you have overtrained recently, or you really do need to defrost your fucking fridge with your hair dryer, or you do need to do X, Y, Z. Like, you will find these reasons. That's what the brain's very good at. It's amazing at being basically the voice on your shoulder that tells you to stay comfortable. I think it's so super important to be aware that motivation, even when we top it up, is something that is always going to diminish. So from the second that we top it up, it probably stays the same for about 72 hours, depending on the motivational stimulus, and then it starts to drop. And that's okay. And a big part of it, actually, to kind of look after people's mental health a little bit, I've kind of gone from scathing to pandering a little bit here, but let yourself off the hook a little bit, because that is just human psychology. That is behavioral psychology 101. We feel motivated, we experience that hype, and then it starts to go downhill, and that's completely okay. So as soon as you accept that intellectually and emotionally, you might not beat yourself up as much for being like, oh, but I started so well, I was so hyped and I was so motivated, and then I stopped doing X, Y, Z, I stopped training, I stopped being as strict with my diet outside of the gym, and you start to beat yourself up. And that is okay, because it's understandable. It's not okay because we don't want to do it as such, but it is understandable and we understand why. But what we need to do when we are hyped and are motivated is, again, be aware that that is the most motivated that you're going to feel, and it's going to start to slip down. So make sure you're like, I'm absolutely buzzing to go to training, and I'm aware that at some point in the next month, I'm not going to be buzzing to go to training. I'm not going to want to. It's going to feel hard. It's going to feel uncomfortable, and I'm going to have 1,000,001 absolutely rational reasons why you shouldn't do that. But if you anchor into that expectation that those voices are going to be there, you will know when 3 weeks down the line you're like, oh, my leg feels a bit sore, or blah, 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 I'm really tired, or actually, to be honest, I did have a really, really bad day at work. And you can anchor into that and be like, no, Jim said this would happen, and this is the time when it matters the most. Like, one of my favorite quotes from Muhammad Ali is when he was asked how many sit-ups he could do unbroken. He said, I don't know, I don't count them. I only start counting when they start hurting. Those are the hard yards, that's when it matters. And it's kind of the same with our gym sessions. Anyone can be super pumped and go smash out a 5K on a treadmill, or go do an unbelievable strength and functional hypertrophy session in the gym when they're pumped for it. But when you have genuine rational reasons why it's probably best you don't go, the ability to discern genuine rationale and logic, and sometimes maybe you are injured and sometimes maybe you are burnt out and you shouldn't go, but that is only 8% of the time. 92% of the time, they are excuses that your brain throws at you. So anchoring into the fact that you know that those voices sometimes might not always have your gains and your improvement in health in mind, knowing that can help a lot, because just that discernment of the messages that are real and the messages that are bullshit and telling you to stay comfortable, the ability to discern between the two is going to be game-changing for the way that you progress moving forwards. A couple of tips from me then, guys. Pattern disruption is 100% my go-to. So I love training and I love staying healthy, and I personally have never had like loads of motivation and hype to train in the gym and not eat healthy. I have motivation to live and train and work and be healthier and better, and training and eating healthily is all part of that. So luckily I've never had to distinguish between you know, the kitchen and the gym. If I'm pumped in one or pumped for one, I'm kind of pumped for both. But if I find that motivation going down, what I do is, again, one of the things I do is I let myself off the hook and I go, I'm human. It's absolutely natural to have diminishing return of motivation. Just because I watched the motivational video 6 years ago doesn't mean that I'm going to flip and get up at 5 a.m. every day. And again, this is where people fall down. They expect the motivation they feel the second after they have that stimulus to be there permanently. It's not going to happen. So what can we do when we feel that start to drop? One of the best things for me in regards to pattern disruption being the term that I give for breaking out of that routine, breaking out of that habit, is to go somewhere new. I absolutely flipping love training in new gyms. So I'll schedule that in. And again, I'll have those little voices in my mind going, yeah, but it will actually take half an hour longer to get there, half an hour longer to get back. Do you have a spare hour today, considering you've got a gym down the road? Do you really have that time? That time could be spent doing X, Y, Z. No. And I can discern that that voice is not going to be productive for me getting healthier. It's just trying to keep me comfortable, right? So I will schedule going to a new gym, new weights, new bars, new natural light coming through, new playlist pumping out the speakers, new people to look at and talk to and kind of engage with and see what they're up to. But for me now, I still live in Sussex, but I actually travel up to London once a week, usually on a Tuesday. I'm up there training with a couple of guys I know, or I'll go up there, train on my own, do a little bit of work and then come back. And for me, that could be like a whole day's journey because it's an hour on the train, but I absolutely flip and adore it. Get some work done on the train. So again, I could look at that as dead time, but I'm looking at that as an opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to get my laptop out and do some work on the move, so it's not dead time. I get up there, train in a new place. I'm getting to know some of the PTs and the other guys that train there. And for me, that has been game changing because it just tops up my motivation and makes the rest of my sessions through the week all that bit better, because for me, that experience has made me fall in love with my training that little bit more again. One of the other things that can really help, and this is going to be something that some people definitely stay away from because it is not a particularly comfortable thing, is to surround yourself by people that you do believe inspire you and kind of top up your motivation, and basically ask to jump in with one of their sessions. If they say no and they're super busy, who gives a shit? You're in exactly the same situation. But I guarantee you, anyone that is worth their flipping weight in salt, at the very least, if somebody asked me if they could jump in on one of my sessions because they wanted to kind of spike their motivation, I'd like to think that I'd say yes. I'd be like, well, I'm on this program. You kind of have to do my program. I'm not going to break my routine, but by all means, you're absolutely welcome to kind of come and jump in. I'd like to think that I would say that. And even if I either didn't want to do that or I couldn't do that and I communicated that, I guarantee you the only thing I would feel about that person is absolute fucking respect for reaching out. Even if I couldn't do it, I'd be like, that person is lacking motivation and they had the balls to message someone they might even not know that well to ask if they could jump in on a session, because the way that they train and the intensity that they execute their flipping sessions with and their approach to their health with is something that motivates them enough that they just want to be in their space to osmotically kind of like soak that up. Mad respect for anyone asking. If you do, you get a good session out of it. If you don't, you're no worse off. So there's a couple of little tips and tricks for me that have worked well for my general approach and feeling and experience of my training and my approach to living well, improving my own performance, health and physique, which is what I pursue on a day-to-day basis, and obviously what this channel is all about with the content that I create for you, flipping beautiful humans. But what I'll do a little bit now is take a bit more of a deep dive into what we can do within the paradigm of a session itself. You are balls deep in the middle of a Metcon session. You are, in the middle of an AMRAP. You're absolutely hanging out your ass. How do you stay motivated? How do you prevent those voices telling you that it's probably better if you slow down? How do you prevent that, and how do you kind of push forward or kind of maintain that level when it is just, we'll be completely honest, it's just flipping uncomfortable, right? The first thing I do with that is something that I developed the ability to do when I started doing cold water therapy, like cold water immersion, using my ice bath that I had until I had to sell it about a year ago, rest in peace. And from there, what I did is basically try to truly, sounds really weird, but try to completely, as much as you can, intellectualize that feeling. Intellectual side of things, feeling side of things, obviously they're very different, right? But if I'm like really uncomfortable in the middle of a session, it's kind of making me panic a little bit more. I'm like, well, what actually is this discomfort? I try to almost describe it to myself. Well, my lungs are like really panting. Okay, well, is that uncomfortable? Well, it might be pulling on my torso a little bit. My diaphragm's pulling down and it's extending. My throat's a little bit uncomfortable, trying to get air in and out that quickly. Okay, Okay, that's interesting. What else? So I'm on a rower, my quads are burning a little bit, and it becomes like almost this weird like fluttery panic when I breathe, not synchronized with a particular stroke. Okay, that's interesting. Well, it takes like 1 or 2 strokes to kind of get back into that rhythm. What else? And these are weird conversations that I have with myself. I'm like, what does it actually feel like? And it's like, well, my legs are burning. What does that feel like? Well, they're warm. They feel warm and they feel full. Okay, warm and full. After a fucking roast dinner, you'd do anything for that feeling. So it's like, so what's like, why is that a bad thing? And strangely, your association with these feelings moves away from like panicky, flipping, fluttery, spasmodic pain to just a little bit more, okay, I identify these as, this is some kind of electrons banging together in my brain, and I understand that this is a signal, and I can kind of separate from the signal. It doesn't work fully. It's not like you stop feeling uncomfortable, but it goes probably more than 50% of the way to just kind of mitigating the way that pain or discomfort affects me. Another thing you can do, especially if you're burning off calories in this session, I imagine most things that are quite tiring do burn calories. That's kind of why, you know, they're fairly aerobically or physiologically demanding. That's kind of why they're in there. You can promise yourself a little treat. So you can be like, right, this session is genuinely the hardest session I've done all week. I'm gonna have XYZ after. Not flipping 14 Domino's pizzas, but promise yourself something and you know you've got that to look forward to. My old coach in the States, a guy called Rich Sadiv, the human crane, shout out Rich Sadiv, the human crane, from the Parisi Speed School in Fairlawn. I went there and I trained there just after I left the Marines when I was doing bobsleigh for a couple of months. And he said one thing to me. He said, every single time you do a session and it's coming towards the end of the session, put yourself more and more and more in the bin, because are you gonna have a protein shake? And I used to drink protein shakes straight after. I don't do it as much now for many reasons that I'll go into at other times. If you're curious, comment down in the comment section below. But then I used to have like a mass gaining shake because I was tiny as a bobsleigh athlete. And he said, your shake is gonna taste 10 times better when you are 10 times deeper in that hole. So make sure you earn that fucking mass gainer shake. And I swear to God, for the last like 9 years since, it's been the most effective message to anchor into. Because if there's something I'm doing after, I'm like, I've got to earn this now. I've got to earn it. I want to be someone who takes protein shakes. I've got to earn this. Make sure you earn the feeling of relief at the end of a session. Like grateful it's over. Like you've just been plucked out of a flipping volcano half a second before you land on the lava. Earn that feeling of relief. And last one from me, guys, sounds like a massive cliche, but anchor into the why of what you're doing. When things really, really are tough, you're like, well, in 2 weeks I'm going on holiday, or I want to drop a dress size or a clothes size, or I want to put on a little bit of muscle. I'm seeing my friends soon and they always take the piss out of how skinny I am. And this time I haven't seen them in 6 months and I'm going to see them in 3 weeks. And I want to make sure I'm flipping jacked and shredded, right? So whatever it is, think of something in the not too distant future. And I say not too distant because again, it's behavioral psychology. If you're like, next year I'm doing this, that voice is going to be very loud where it goes, well, next year's a long way away, mate. We can flip and deal with that then. Don't worry about that right now. That voice will be super loud. So what I suggest is think of something that you're doing in the next 2-3 weeks, even if it's, I'm going home and seeing my family and I want them to tell me, oh my God, you've got bigger, you look good. Or, oh my God, you've got smaller, you look good. Whatever the hell the objective may be, your training hopefully feeds that objective. So just anchor into the why am I doing this? Sometimes something that you're doing within the next 4 weeks, and that should go at least some way to help keeping you accountable to just training that extra little bit harder in the meantime. So there we go, guys, and I've given you a couple of different hacks and kind of possibly minor nuanced alterations in perspective on motivation in the macro, and also super more acute ways to attempt to kind of motivate yourself to keep pushing hard if you're in the bin, in the hole in a particular session. So please do kind of cherry pick whichever one of those you believe will give you the most value, whichever one you struggle with kind of most. But if there's one main takeaway from this video, from this communication that I'm offering to you now, I hope you truly anchor into the reminder that managing your expectations and being aware, right, maybe even this video is a motivational stimulus for you, and I genuinely hope it is. I would be incredibly happy and proud of what I'm doing if that is the case, and if you are self-reporting that that is what you're getting from this right now. But I guarantee you, whatever I say to you now, the amount of motivation that this video is giving you right now that you're watching it, even 24 hours after you've watched it, it is going to start to drop from that moment on. So please manage your expectations as to whether or not feeling motivated all the time is possible. It's not. By all means, put together your own menu of different things that can offer motivational stimulus to keep that bar topped up. But you've got to be aware that even 50% of the time that you're trying to pursue an improvement in your performance, health, and physique, that motivation is going to be absolutely a big fat zero. And that's just the way it's going to be. That's just the way it's going to be. So knowing that that's going to be the case can be super helpful. And also knowing, being prepared for those little voices to come in, telling you, giving you those self-justifications as to why it's probably best that you don't train. Be aware that that is basically a certain level of consciousness that has the primary objective of kind of keeping you safe and comfortable. But we don't want to be safe and comfortable. We want to be outside our comfort zone, because that's where true joy is, challenging ourselves, getting ready for the difficult. And in my opinion, hard, like truly hard, silent exercise sessions where you can't do anything and you're not doing anything other than listening to your own breathing. You can feel your own heartbeat in your fucking eyeballs. They are one of the best vehicles ever to help you reassess what your limitations actually are, to develop a feeling of capability within you, and to give you all the benefits that living a healthy, active lifestyle offers. That is what I believe, that is what I hope for you. I hope that message and this video has motivated you, and I hope most of all that you realize that that motivation that you feel right now, it ain't gonna last very long. Guys, any questions on anything I've mentioned, please do put them down in the comment section below. If you do believe that this has given you some kind of value, entertainment, empowerment, education, anything, please do just give it a like. Please, it is literally 2 or 3 seconds for you. I'm still a very young channel. It will do amazing things for me to slingshot me into the deep fucking dark waters of the YouTube algorithm. I would be eternally grateful. Beautiful people, as always, stay strong, stay healthy, stay awesome. I'll see you soon.